You ever watch your own HOA president throw a paid fitness class inside your private backyard pool? Because I did. And when I tried to stop it, when I said, "Enough is enough," she shoved me straight into neon green water. I'd booby-trapped just for her. That was the moment my quiet little American dream went radioactive. Aki T1. The conflict begins. We thought Maple Lane was the kind of neighborhood you see on postcards. Tree-lined streets, kids on bikes, porch swings, the works. My wife Sarah was glowing. We had just moved in, just painted the nursery sky blue for the baby. We hadn't even told our families about yet. Life was supposed to be simple. And then came the yellow slips. The first one fluttered onto our welcome mat like a warning shot. Paint shade not on approved list. Out I laughed, figured it was some clerical mix-up. But then came another. Trash visible after pickup window. And another. Grass exceeds regulation 2 inches. Every single note signed with the same name, the same smug handwriting. HOA President Karen Miller. Karen. She didn't just deliver these notes. She arrived in person, pressed polo, visor tilted like a crown, clipboard hugged like a newborn. She handed Sarah a plate of cookies that could have doubled as bricks. And while Sarah tried not to break a tooth, Karen's eyes scanned our porch light, our hedges, even our wind chimes like she was cataloging evidence for a trial. Still, I told myself, follow the rules. Keep the peace. I repainted trim, dragged the trash bins out of sight, buzz-cut the lawn. But Sarah noticed the crease in my forehead getting deeper each morning. "Is this normal?" she asked, holding the latest violation like a guilty verdict. I lied through my teeth. Rules keep neighborhoods pretty. Truth. It tasted like pennies in my mouth. Then came the day everything cracked. I woke early, coffee in hand, just in time to see strangers in matching swim caps slicing through my pool like it was the YMCA. And there she was, Karen Miller herself, sitting poolside in a folding chair, cash box gleaming like a troll's treasure. "Out, now," I said, voice low but shaking. Karen didn't even flinch. She patted the chair beside her, smiled like a toll collector, and said, "Community fitness program. Robert, read your covenants." I called the sheriff. Deputy Martinez showed up 20 minutes later, yawned, wrote a note, and handed me the verdict. "Civil issue, sir. Work it out with your board." So there I stood, in my own driveway, while my pool filled with paying customers and Karen-pocketed bills, and for the first time, I realized the law wasn't on my side. She was. Act 2. Escalation and doubt. That night I lay awake staring at the ceiling, listening for every creak, every rustle outside. If the law wouldn't protect us, then hardware would. Cameras hidden in the azaleas, smart locks on every gate. A 12-foot steel slide gate that shut with the finality of a bank vault. Neighbors started avoiding me. They whispered, crossed the street instead of waving. On the HOA app, Karen mocked my upgrades. Robert's building, Fort Knox. The likes poured in, and suddenly, we weren't neighbors anymore. We were pariahs. Sarah tried to joke. "At least they admire your craftsmanship," but I saw the fear behind her smile. Pregnant. Exhausted, asking me every night, "Are we safe?" And I didn't have an answer. One night, Doug, the so-called HOA security guard, showed up at my gate, gut spilling over his belt, cigarette dangling. "Karen wants your sprinkler plans," he said, tapping the steel post. Then he smirked. "Gate's 2 inches over height code. We can make that disappear or make you tear it down." I clenched my fists. For a heartbeat, I saw myself dragging him across the lawn. But then, Afghanistan flashed back. One bad decision in a dusty market. One moment of rage that ruined everything. I'd promised Sarah I wouldn't let anger choose for me again. So I stepped back. Doug, he grinned like he'd won. But across the street, old Mr. Abernathy watered his petunias, gave me a slow shake of his head, then shuffled over. "County solicitor, 22 years, he muttered. "My hobby, slapping bullies with paperwork. Document everything. Son, records win." That night, Sarah and I sat at the table with Abernathy and Joey, the one neighbor who hadn't abandoned us. We sketched out plans, cameras, timestamps, chain of custody. And then, a sting. Joey grinned like a kid. "Catch the queen ant," with crumbs all over her face. But the real twist came later. I knocked on Ron's door, the HOA treasurer. He looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. At first, he refused to talk. Then, finally, he caved. Papers everywhere. Bank statements, invoices, shell companies. His voice cracked as he admitted the truth. She's been embezzling for years. Rob, skimming maintenance, inflating contracts, buying up properties after she harasses owners out. Remember the Fosters. Their house burned down 2 weeks later. One of her LLCs bought the lot. I stared at the map. My stomach dropped. She's not just stealing from the HOA, I whispered. She's stealing the neighborhood. Ron slid me a recorder. Everything's on here. Threats, embezzlement, property scams. If something happens to me, make sure this gets to someone she can't buy. And that was the moment I realized this wasn't just suburban politics. This was organized crime, wearing a polo shirt and a visor. I wanted to quit. I told Sarah maybe we should run. Sell the house, disappear before the baby came. She looked at me, hand on her belly, eyes hard as steel. If we run now, what happens to the next family? That was the turning point. Fear turned into resolve. If Karen wanted war, she picked the wrong neighbor. Act 3. The climax. Tuesday morning. Quiet. Too quiet. I knew something was coming. And then, like clockwork, the side gate clanged open. Karen strode in, visor gleaming, 6 women in swim caps behind her. Community wellness, she announced, smug as ever. Cash changed hands. A blonde cannonballed into the water. I hit the hidden switch. A fine mist hissed from jets I'd built into the coping stones. For 3 beats, it looked like morning dew. Then, woof! The entire pool erupted into a glowing neon lime, tracer dye bonding with sunscreen and chlorine. The water pulsed like alien blood. Screams erupted. One woman clawed up the ladder, hands glowing radioactive green. What did you do to us? Karen spun toward me, fury blazing. You ruined everything. She lunged, shoved me hard. My coffee mug flew. My heel clipped the coping, and then splash, I went under, swallowed by the very trap I'd set. Silence, burning eyes, lungs screaming. Then I surfaced into chaos. Neighbors filming with phones, cash box glowing on the deck, Karen dripping green rage. And then the sirens. Deputy Martinez rolled up. Lights strobed red and blue across our fence. He stepped out, took one look at the glowing pool, the glowing money, the glowing Karen, and didn't even try to hide his smirk. "Ma'am, did you pay to swim here?" he asked one of the women. "They paid me," Karen snapped, before realizing she'd just confessed. That was it. Abernathy marched up, calm as a law library, operating a commercial enterprise on private property without consent. "We'll take receipts and your resignation in any order." Karen shrieked, jabbed a finger at me. He set me up. Martinez lifted his recorder. "Nobody makes you break and enter with a cash drawer." "Ma'am?" Neighbors erupted, some laughing, some gasping. Phones streamed live. Karen's reign cracked under the weight of evidence she couldn't spin. That evening, the HOA emergency meeting was packed. Mrs. Delgado, the acting chair, called order. I stood at the projector, hands trembling, as neon-lit photos filled the screen. Karen lunging, glowing cash bills, financial spreadsheets showing 67 $1,000 siphoned into her accounts. Ron stepped forward, voice shaking but clear. For 8 months, I documented systematic embezzlement pool enhancement initiative. Every dollar stolen. Gasps, shouts, whispers. Karen's defenders wilted. Abernathy dropped a thick folder on the table. Audits, chain of custody forms, fingerprint analysis, verified, admissible, airtight. Mrs. Delgado raised her gavel. Board vote removal of Karen Miller and Doug King, effective immediately. Hands shot up across the room. The motion carried overwhelming. 2 deputies stepped forward, cuffs in hand. Martinez read the new charges: conspiracy, organized theft, harassment. Karen's face twisted in disbelief as cold steel snapped shut on her wrists. Doug lunged for the projector cart, shouting. Deputies tackled him, dragged him out in bracelets of his own. And just like that, the tyrant was done. Final beat. The war that began with yellow slips ended with handcuffs. And lesson. And in neighborhoods and in life, bullies only win if good people stay quiet.